Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Good evening, friends, and welcome to this January 5, 2015 edition of Nightcast. Firefighters tonight, friends, in southern Australia say weather conditions have eased, allowing a short window to try to bring under control bushfires that have been burning for 4 days just east of the city of Adelaide. Planes known as air tankers are dropping water on the perimeter of the blaze to try to slow its progress. John Donison reports.
For a fourth day, the Adelaide Hills continue to burn. Thousands have been forced to flee. Some have returned to find they've lost all that they own.
But they wouldn't let us come and save our house, unfortunately.
What have you lost, everything?
Everything.
All my possessions and documents and my paperwork. Lost my pets, dogs, a few cars, a few collectibles, all gone,
Today, weather conditions ease slightly, allowing a brief window to try and bring the fire under control.
We want it contained before the weather changes. We're expecting more hot weather, which will create conditions for the fire to escape, and we would like to contain it within its general perimeter.
Planes known as air tankers, capable of dumping over 10,000 litres of water and fire retardant at a time, are being used. And more than 500 firefighters, many of them volunteers, are working round the clock. The Adelaide Hills are not densely populated, but there are fears huge numbers of cattle and sheep have also perished. And other wildlife has suffered too. This was a shelter for orphaned animals.
When they turned up here, I could see the house was well alight, and I just said to them, let it go, save my animals, and we did.
People here are well used to the threat from bushfires. Many see it as all part of Australian life. Others, though, say climate change is making the fire season increasingly treacherous. John Donison, BBC News, Sydney.
Friends, the dramatic moment that a fireworks factory exploded in Colombia has been captured on camera. A member of a local TV crew was filming the blaze at a building in Granada when it erupted, sending colorful pyrotechnics across the sky. One person sustained minor injuries and several roads were closed. An investigation has been launched to establish what caused the explosion. As you can see in the script on the screen a moment ago, the cameraman took cover. Hundreds of fireworks exploded, took cover behind a car. No one was seriously injured, but several homes were damaged and residents were left shaken. It was terrible. It was chaotic. We felt the vibrations. I just took my daughter out of the house and ran. We were pushed by the vibrations. It was terrible. It's something I never want to go through again. It took a team of about 30 firefighters more than 6 hours to fully contain the blaze. Investigators are looking into the cause of the explosion and have not ruled out foul play. And so for those of you who enjoy fireworks on the first of the pagan Roman year, there was plenty of them they had there. And again, thankfully, nobody was injured in that. Not even the cameraman, just maybe shook him up a little bit. In the Syrian conflict. This one story relates to the second seal of Revelation, the red horse of war and rumors of war. Syria conflict, Lebanese backlash over Syrian refugees. The Lebanese authorities have imposed restrictions on Syrian refugees crossing its border, aimed at showing the influx of asylum seekers escaping civil war, or slowing the influx of asylum seekers escaping civil war. Travel between the two countries was previously largely unrestricted, but now Syrians will have to obtain a visa. The United Nations has asked the government to clarify whether the most vulnerable refugees can still gain access. Paul Wood reports from Lebanon.
Lebanese fear for their future. One sign of that, the re-emergence of militias. These are Christians protecting their town from jihadis who arrived with Muslim refugees from Syria. The Syrian influx has deepened religious divisions in this fragile country. Some worry of a new civil war. The refugees are a crisis for Lebanese Sunnis too. Mashhad, population 6,500, grew by 50% when 3,500 refugees came. Everyone here, Lebanese and Syrian, are Sunni Muslim. That helps little. This was a new camp for Syrians paid for by an international charity. But a few weeks ago, an angry mob of locals came and burned the canvas right down to the foundations. The Lebanese have always been extremely nervous about establishing permanent refugee populations. So the Syrians are spread out, dispersed throughout the country and almost hidden. The tensions, though, are becoming ever more visible. Lebanese locals speak of an economic catastrophe. Wages down, rents up, jobs disappearing.
I used to get paid $1,000 a month. The company replaced me with 4 Syrians for that $1,000. The refugees stack their motorcycles with food bought with aid money. Our men are jobless, while the refugees get it all.
If our government cannot help us, then maybe they should give us Syrian citizenship. At least, then we will get food.
Next door, the grocery shop ledger records the debts of those who can't pay. There are many more Lebanese names here than Syrian. The refugees are under curfew. They hurry to get their shopping done before nightfall. They live scattered around the town, tolerated, not welcomed. The Lebanese also need to work. May God help them, he says, but I have to think of myself first. What they want above all is to go back to Syria, but both the refugees and the Lebanese government know there's little chance of that. Paul Wood, BBC News, Northern Lebanon.
Friends, and in Germany, there are some Pegida protests, rallies over Islamization. Let me see. Which way are we going here with this? Did I already click that video or... well, take my chances with this. Cologne Cathedral lights, I believe that's what we're seeing in the background here, were switched off as part of a protest against the anti-Islam rallies. Supporters and opponents of a group campaigning against what it sees as the Islamization of Europe is what you'll see in this video.
Much of central Cologne has been plunged into darkness within the last hour as part of a protest against a planned anti-Islam march. Lights were switched off at Cologne's great cathedral and on all the bridges across the Rhine as thousands of people joined in the counter-demonstrations. They were protesting at a planned rally by a group calling itself Patriotic Europeans against the Islamization of the West. Let's talk to our correspondent Damien McGuinness, who's in Berlin. Damien, just round up what's been happening.
Well, what's interesting is in Cologne and here in Berlin, what we've seen is a couple of thousand people in each city protesting against these anti-Islam marches, compared to just a couple of hundred people in each of the anti-Islam marches themselves. That's a very different situation to in Dresden, which is the homeland of this movement. There we have exactly the opposite situation. There is an estimated 10,000 people who have come out onto the streets to protest against what they say, or what they perceive as the so-called Islamization of the West. Against them have about a couple of hundred people have come out to the streets to protest against what they say is racism, because a lot of people here in Germany view these anti-Islam protests as basically racist and intolerant, and that's exactly what political leaders, church leaders, and top politicians, including Chancellor Angela Merkel, have all come out and said. So it's a very controversial movement, and what we've seen now in Berlin and Cologne is the reaction of people against that.
Okay, and friends, we have some updates, some pictures that have come in Berlin, Cologne, Dresden, and Stuttgart. In Berlin, police said that some 5,000 counter demonstrations blocked hundreds of Pegida supporters from marching along their planned route. A total of 22,000 anti-Pegida demonstrators rallied in Stuttgart, Munster, and Hamburg, according to the DPS news agency. But in Dresden, police said that 18,000 people turned up for just one anti-immigration rally. The counter-demonstration attracted 3,000 people. And then the caption for this photograph that's part of this story, friends, reads, Pegida supporters were outnumbered in their first march in Berlin. Then another photograph. People attended a rally in Dresden. Lights out. In Cologne, the authorities switched off the lights of the city's cathedral as a way of, as you saw in the video, of telling Pegida supporters they are supporting extremists. We don't think of it as a protest, but we would like to make the many conservative Christians who support Pegida think about what they are doing, the dean of the cathedral, Norbert Feidhoff, told the BBC. Only about 250 Pegida supporters showed up in Cologne compared to thousands of counter demonstrators. Much of the city's center was also plunged into darkness as lights were switched off at major buildings and bridges across the Rhine, according to the news agency DPA. Today, there is really a democratic sign being sent, and a lot of people in Cologne are expressing their opinion, said Cologne Mayor Jürgen Rotters. They want to stress that we here in Cologne do not want to have anything to do with right-wing extremists and xenophobic people. In Dresden, carmaker Volkswagen said it was also keeping its manufacturing plant dark to show that the company, quote, stands for an open, free, and democratic society. Friends, companies, people, certain people wanting to do what is politically right, they think there. This caption, the caption with this photograph, with this news story reads, counter-protesters have been opposing the group. And then I have one more photograph here with the story. The caption with, that last one had the following caption. The sign held by this Berlin man reads, No to Islamization of Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel attacked the movement in her New Year's speech, saying its leaders have prejudice, coldness, even hatred in their hearts. Pegida organizer Catherine Ortel responded in a speech at the rally in Dresden. She said that there was, quote, political repression in Germany once again. Or how, quote, or how would you see it when we are insulted or called racist or Nazis openly by all the political mainstream parties and media for our justified criticism of Germany's asylum seeker policies and the non-existent immigration policy, end quote. A poll of just over 1,000 people carried out by Germany's Stern magazine found 1 in 8 Germans join an anti-Islam march in Pegida, organized one near their home. Let me read that again. I left out a very significant word. A poll of just over 1,000 people carried out by Germany's Stern magazine found 1 in 8 Germans would join an anti-Islam march if Pegida organized one near their home. Germany receives more refugees and asylum seekers than any other EU country. Many of those have come from war-torn Syria. And friends, we've got a story about, that the situation is a climate that's growing in Europe that is readying itself for another round of world war. The climate is heading to be what it was before round 2 of World War started. We'll see that in a moment when I get to a story related to how the euro is on a dive. But let's go for a light story first. I was thinking I might want to end with this one, but I want to segue between I want to end with that story on the euro, and we'll go to one that's kind of light next. When I was a kid, one of my favorite cartoon shows was The Roadrunner, and this story relates to The Roadrunner. In this short video news clip, an emu dodges cars after escaping from a farm in Israel. This emu went on the run, as you'll see in this video, in the Israeli town of, I'll let the lady pronounce that. It's near Tel Aviv. The lady reporter will tell us what that exact city is, near Tel Aviv, where this emu was running through the streets, just like a roadrunner would run right through the streets after escaping from a private farm. The bird ran through along a main road. You'll see him in this video swerving between cars before finally being recaptured by authorities. The unusual scene was caught on film by a motorist, and Babita Sharma has the wonderful opportunity to bring us this report.
Now, forget the cartoon. Here is the real road runner who lives in Israel. This emu escaped from a private farm near Tel Aviv on Sunday and decided to make a bit of a run for it. Certainly, though, not in the fast lane. The big bird ran at red lights before being recaptured and safely returned to its owner. Of course, plenty of time for lots of passers-by and drivers to take pictures on their video phones.
And here he comes. Beep, beep. Hey, where's that Roadrunner music, somebody? Okay. Here. All right, something a little light to sandwich us in here as we go to a little more serious story. The euro touches a 9-year low against the dollar. The euro slid to a 9-year low against the dollar as investors predicted the European Central Bank, the ECB, may act to stimulate the economy. The euro fell by 1.2% against the dollar to 1,000. To 1.1864, marking its weakest level since March 2006, before recovering slightly to 1.19370. The drop follows ECB President Mario Draghi's comments indicating the bank could soon start quantitative easing. Greek political turmoil also weighed on the currency, although the ECB has already cut interest rates to a record low level and also bought some bonds issued by private companies. A full-scale program of quantitative easing, QE, has not yet been launched. But on Friday, Mr. Draghi hinted in a newspaper interview that the bank might soon start a policy of QE, quantitative easing, by buying government bonds, thus copying its counterparts in the UK and US. The purpose would be to inject cash into the banking system, stimulate the economy, and push prices higher. Speaking in an interview with the German newspaper Handelsblatt, Mr. Draghi said, "We are making technical preparations to alter the size, pace, and composition of our measures in early 2015. Political turmoil in Greece also weighed on the euro, with fears that the general election on January 25 could see the anti-austerity left-wing Syriza party take control of the country. The possibility has sparked fears about whether Greece will stick to the terms of its international bailout and stay in the Eurozone. On Saturday, Germany's Der Spiegel magazine said the German government believes the Eurozone would be able to cope with a Greek exit from the Euro if the Syriza party wins the Greek election. Whew. Reacting to Der Spiegel's report, a spokesman for German Chancellor Merkel said there was no change in German policy and the government expects Greece to fulfill its obligations under the EU, ECB, and IMF bailout. Brother Ruben gets in there. Next part of the story, French President François Hollande also commented, saying, It was now up to the Greeks to decide whether to remain a part of the single currency. Europe cannot continue to be identified by austerity, he added, suggesting that the Eurozone needs to focus more on growth than reducing its deficit. Analysis said the euro was likely to remain volatile for the next few weeks. The market is readying itself for actions from the ECB. The first meeting of the year takes place on January 22nd, so the euro is likely to remain in focus and see heightened volatility as we approach that date, which is also a few days before the Greek general election, said senior analyst Angus Campbell. And friends, that is it for our Monday evening edition of Nightcast. God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be back again tomorrow evening, Tuesday night, with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, this is your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying good night and so long, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.